Welcome to the Restaurant Growth Wednesday webinar. Every Wednesday, Luke and I get together and we're here to help give you some new tools, some new ideas, some new processes to break free from where you are to where you want to be. One of the things we like to do is like to give you tons and tons of tools. I will give you lots of information. Your job is to take the information and then apply the tools. That's the best thing you can do. So let's start off with a quote. All my quotes always start off the same. All business problems are, of course, people problems. Make sure to stick around to the end of the webinar because I got a couple offers for you guys. I got a freebie for you. It's going to be really great. You're going to love today's one. Luke's like, oh my God, what did Donald do this time, right? Luke never knows what I'm going to throw. What I'm going to throw as far as a curveball.
Curveballs.
The rules real quick. Make sure, rule number one, have some fun. Number two, take notes. Research has shown if you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you are 70% more likely to remember the information 30 days from now. And that is my goal. Number three, take action. If you don't apply what you've learned, you haven't really learned anything. Remember and remember this, please. Knowledge is not power. Application of knowledge is power. And then every once in a while, you're going to hear me say, hashtag WTSD. If you've been on these webinars for a while, you know exactly what does hashtag WTSD mean. Write in the chat if you know hashtag WTSD. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? If you've been on these webinars, you know what I'm going. You know where I'm going. You know which rabbit hole. That's it. Write this shit down. That's the gold nuggets. Now, is this your first time on the webinars joining Luke and I am Donald Burns. I am the restaurant coach. I am a recovering restaurant owner. I've also been a consultant for big billion-dollar brands like Cisco Foods, US Foods, Shamrock Foods. I'm also a chef. I was a chef with Wolfgang Puck for a number of years. I'm also an author, best known for the Your Restaurant Sucks trilogy. I also have a new book out called Savage Restaurant Success and another book coming out very soon. It's called Ingredients. It's going to be some really cool stuff. And I'm also a restaurant investor and a former member of the U.S. Air Force pararescue teams. That being said, when I opened my first restaurant in 1995, that is me in the middle, believe it or not, I thought that I had all the requirements necessary to be successful because I had worked in restaurants for 15 years up to that point. I was 30 when I opened my first restaurant. And sadly, it didn't work out quite like that. It was actually an eye-opening experience that just because I had restaurant experience did not mean I was qualified to build a brand. Yes, I knew how to run a restaurant. I did not know how to build a profitable brand. I was very, very fortunate that I found a business mentor. Actually, one of my clients, one of my regulars who came to my restaurant. Maybe he feels sorry for me. I don't know. He just saw maybe I was struggling, working my ass off, not getting any results. But he offered to teach me. And when he offered to teach me, it changed my life. And the thing I will tell you about this is that I was like a lot of people. I thought I knew it all. And when you think you know it all, you end up kind of shutting yourself off to possibilities. And that was a game changer for me when I actually took in the idea of getting a coach, a business mentor to help me out. So here's my question for you today. If you're bleeding cash, or you feel like, all your hard-earned money, your dough is vanishing into thin air, time to get serious about budgeting strategies. This is not the fun, shiny stuff like menu design. This isn't the fun, kind of sparkly stuff like profitability as far as that in the surface. It's not the fun stuff like marketing. This is the real deal. This is the stuff that's actually going to put money into your bank account. We're going to talk about some of the strategies that I use with all my clients in our accelerator program to help them add more money to their bottom line and fill their bank accounts with money and not just a bunch of zeros. Okay. You want zeros behind the numbers, not just in front of the numbers. That's the big thing. So when I opened my first restaurant, my mentor kind of explained things to me like this. He said, Donald, if I gave you a 3-digit lock, combination lock, and I said, open the lock, could you open the lock? And I said, well, his name was Peter. So, well, Peter, without the combination, it might be a little hard. He goes, exactly. But if I give you the combination and I tell you the order they go in. You can open a lock whenever you want. That is the job of what all coaches should be doing, is to give you the combination to show you how to unlock the lock anytime you want. The lock we use in the accelerator program is called the 3P framework. It is the foundation of all my coaching programs. It is always people, product, process. I will warn you that when I tell you this stuff, you will try to move things around. And I will tell you, as I tell all my clients, it only works when it's people, product, process. Now, inside of each of these locks, there's another series of mini locks they have to unlock. Like the people part, it's mindset, your mindset, then culture, then hiring. In the product part, it's always food costing, then menu, and then marketing. And in the process part, it's always systems, then strategy, and then profitability. Now, when you're looking at this thing, you're going to be kind of attracted to those pain points you have. Might be profitability, might be marketing, it might be hiring. Type in the chat right now, what is, if you're like looking at your number one pain point, what would your pain point be? Is it profitability? Is it systems, strategy, marketing, cash flow? Is it menu? Profitability, cash flow, strategy. Awesome, awesome, perfect. Hiring, budgets, process. Ooh, we got this. If you said budgets, you're in the right place today. You are tuned into the right channel, my friends. We are going to really go down the rabbit hole on some budgets today. So what we're going to talk about today in our accelerator program, we have a series of modules that give you the tools, the training, and the coaching to unlock each area. In the people part, we have strength trainings, workshops, culture, hiring, and in the product part, we have a food cost boot camp, extreme menu makeover, marketing stuff about winning the organic game, because you want to really learn the organic game before you kind of jump into that paid game with Luke and Michael and his team. And then the process part, we got system strategy, small area of the profit clinic. Now, the profit clinic's normally like a 10-hour coaching program, right? Each of these courses you see here is multiple stuff. Here's my quote to start you off on. Mastering your restaurant's budget isn't about just tracking dollars and cents. It's about strategically sculpting your financial future. Regular reviewing of your financials, your budgets, is the way that you chisel away and carve out success in a crowded marketplace. If you want more money, you must have a budget. So today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, actually, when we talk about profitability, is resource allocation. Resource allocation, let me kind of give you a simple way to describe resource allocation. Resource allocation is like chess, in the sense that when I'm looking at a chessboard, each of the pieces on the chessboard have a different strength. They move in certain patterns. They can only do certain things. That's what we call resource allocation, taking all your resources and allocating them, using them to the best possible way to get the most out of each one. Resource allocation is a huge game changer, right? And your accountant might use this word a lot. Hey, you gotta get more into resource allocation. I will tell you that resource allocation is a lifeline to sustain growth and profitability. So we're going to cut through a lot of the BS today, and I'm going to give you some real actionable strategies to get your finances on track and also get your restaurant bottom line really booming. So make sure you got a piece of paper and a pen, because it's going to be fast and furious. Are you ready? Let's go. Buckle up, because we're about to slice through the nonsense and serve up some straightforward, actionable strategies that's going to stabilize your finances. And also, I want to supercharge your restaurant success. Okay. This is really critical. You have to understand that to really get our restaurant to where we need to be, there's one key factor you have to remember. Hashtag, write this shit down. Know your numbers. So I'm gonna break this down into different sections for you. Part one, know your numbers inside and out. You'll hear me say this. If you read my first book, Your Restaurant Sucks, I said this I think probably quite a few times in that book. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. In fact, you don't have a business. What you have is a hobby, a very, very expensive hobby. Understanding your financials is the cornerstone of your restaurant success. Yes, making food is part of it, but making food and making money need to go hand in hand. Profit is not a dirty word. I know a lot of people think it is, and I know a lot of you are that starving artist thing where you're working for your craft. You don't understand, Donald. I'm a chef. I'm an artist. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm all about being a chef too, and I love the creativity part. But I quickly realized that I had to make money at it, or else I wasn't going to be in business very, very long. Okay, today we're going to kind of dive deeper into your numbers, because when you dive deeper into numbers, it actually can make or break your business. And here's how we're going to do it. Number one, you want to start looking at daily sales reports. Start each day with a clear picture of what happened the day before. Daily sales reports give you an instant snapshot. What I'm looking at: gross revenue, number of guests, average spend per guest, what we call guest check average, all right, or per person average. These are the things I need to understand at a deep level, because these are metrics I can actually improve on and work on. Okay. I need to know what's selling, what's not selling. I need to get my ego out of the menu. The number one thing that will kill you more than anything is not the economy. The three number one killers of all restaurants. Hashtag write these down. The three prime killers. Faster than the economy, faster than anything. The three killers of restaurants are ego, pride, and denial. It will kill a restaurant faster than anything. So daily sales reports are critical. Weekly cost of goods, COGS. Now, COGS are basically food cost. And then we also look at labor cost. You need to understand and have your finger on the pulse of what are my food costs at. Now, every month, someone will call me and say this question: hey, Donald, my food cost is 30%. Is that good? And I'll say, I don't know. And they'll say, what do you mean you don't know? And I'll say, let me ask you a question. What's your theoretical food cost? And then they'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, that's the problem. Theoretical food cost is perfect world or ideal food cost. If you don't know what your theoretical food cost is, it doesn't really matter what your actual food cost is, because you're not going to reach your potential. You got to understand that gap between theoretical and actual food costs. And that comes from understanding your weekly cost of goods, your food costs on a weekly basis. You need to start tracking this stuff. Are you losing money? Is your food cost taking it in, just killing it, or getting crushed because of waste, theft, portion control issues? When was it? Last week we did the 40 Thieves of Food Cost. Yeah, the 40 Thieves of Food Cost. Go back and watch that webinar. I gave you 40 different ways to control your food cost. And newsflash, only one is the price that you buy from your vendor. But most of the time, we want to beat up our vendors all the time about our pricing, when that's not usually the problem. It's usually your portion and it's your waste that's kicking your ass. All right, labor, another huge area. It's probably, especially nowadays, as wages go up in different states and benefits go up in different states, labor has become something you got to really, really manage. Huge, huge. Because if not, it can easily get out of control. We have a client just started with us in the Restaurant Accelerator program, and their labor, they're getting their ass kicked on the labor. So our first immediate focus is we're going to dial in that labor budget right away. Right? You can't just go crazy. And you probably, if you worked in the restaurants for a while, you probably noticed there's a kind of a weird conundrum, a paradox, in the sense that the service team always wants less people on the floor because they want to make more tips, they want more tables. And the kitchen team always wants more people. We need more help. We need more help. You got to just, numbers are the numbers. The numbers do not lie. When you do your restaurant by budgets and follow the numbers will not lead you astray. Okay. How many people know their theoretical food cost? Type in the chat, yes or no. I'm not judging, just type in the chat. Do you know your theoretical food cost? Yes or no? Type in the chat, yes or no. Do you know your theoretical food cost? That means you've costed out everything down to the penny. No. I ask this question to audiences all the time when I speak around the world. And I'll speak to audiences of like 1,000 people in the audience, and I'll ask them, hey, raise your hand if you've costed everything on your menu down to the penny. I am shocked and appalled that only 2% of the audience raises their hand. Okay. It's crazy. This is the easiest way to put 5% to your bottom line, just by understanding that gap between theoretical and actual food cost. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Okay. And then labor costs. When I'm looking at labor costs, there's certain things I look at. There's certain parameters or benchmarks I'm looking at. Another thing you got to start doing is utilizing technology. Have a robust POS system. Now, most people use their POS system like a cash register to ring up sales and put money in. Your POS system has a wealth of reports that you want to dig into. Product mix reports, discounts and comps, variance reports. These are huge, huge things that actually can help you start understanding, where is my money going, right? The number one question you want to start asking yourself is, who's got my money? Because in your restaurant, you got little money thieves that are taking your profits. And you just want to start asking, who's got my money? Right? Where in my P&L, where in my budget, where can I find the money? It doesn't appear magically. You have to go looking for it. Menu profitability analysis. This is another huge thing. We call it a menu engineering worksheet. We did a webinar on menu engineering, didn't we too? We've done all this stuff. Menu engineering is the most powerful tool. You want to talk about putting money back to the bottom line really fast? Understanding your food cost, that theoretical actual gap, closing that gap. I'll give you tools for that. 5% automatically. You want to add another 3% to your bottom line? Do a really, really good menu engineering worksheet. Have someone who understands how to use menu engineering, can help you redesign your menu, add some profitability to it, use some menu psychology tools, add another 3%. So if you're at 5%, like the average restaurant, just by understanding your food cost, now you're at 10. Understanding doing menu engineering, you're at 13% easily. Less than 90 days. I'm telling you, it's not rocket science, people. It's people science. Okay. Restaurant success is not rocket science. It is just people science. You just got to understand, where are you beating your head against the wall? Stop beating your head, get some new tools, get some new techniques, and just break free. Break even analysis is another thing. You got to know what your break even is. How many people know what their break even is? Type in the chat, yes or no. I asked somebody the other day, what's your break even? You know what he said? A lot. I said, all right, that helps. Define a lot, because I'm kind of lost. Like, you want to know your break even. You're bleeding out money. You got to know your break even. All right. That's the number one thing. Knowing your numbers isn't just part of business. It is your business. Write that down. Knowing your numbers isn't just part of business. It is your business. The more you understand your financial metrics, the better equipped you're going to be to make smart, proactive, not reactive decisions. There's two ways restaurant owners run their business: proactive and reactive. If Luke goes to the doctor, and let's say he had he's got like a little chest congestion, doctor gives him some antibiotics. Luke goes to the doctor, sits down and says, hey, Luke, you're responding to the medication. That's good. Hey, Luke, you're having a reaction to the antibiotics. That's bad. Okay. You either react or respond. Your mindset determines which one happens. I like to be proactive, and I like to respond. And to do that, I need data. When I have data, I have ammunition, and now I can make a strategic plan and decisions that best suit my restaurant. If I'm just flying off the seat of my pants and going by just whatever happens, and I'm playing checkers, not chess, it makes a very, very stressful existence for you. Right? Stay ahead of the game by keeping your fingers on the pulse of your financial health. Remember, knowledge is in power in this business, especially with numbers. It's profitability. Part number 2, you got to prioritize your spending. Budgets tell me what I can spend and what I can't. It's not just about cutting costs. A lot of people think, oh, budgets, you're going to put me on a budget, you're going to cut all my spending. No, I just want to know where you're spending. There's a difference. If you don't have a budget, you don't know how much you should be spending. And your team doesn't know how much they should be spending. I had a client the other day in our accelerator program. He was very, very happy that he has multiple locations. And he was very, very happy that one of the managers at one of his locations took the initiative. And you've heard of like web restaurants, the online store, you buy equipment, you buy all that little stuff. Well, he was very happy. She took the initiative and she went online, ordered a bunch of equipment. He was not happy that she spent $8,000 because he did not have that in his budget. I said, did you communicate the budget to her? He said, no. I said, that's on you. Because if they don't understand what the budget is, they'll spend the money because why? It's not their money. All right. Anybody got kids? Anybody knows like your kids spend your money pretty rapidly and they just like, they don't understand. Like, I want the new Apple, huge Apple Pro headphones with their $450. So they don't understand budgets. They do not understand this. You have to prioritize where and how you spend your money. It will dramatically change your growth and sustainability. Now, how do we do that? Okay, there's some different tools we're going to use. Number one, we need to classify our expenses. Start dividing your expenses into clearly defined categories. The three main categories you do are essentials. This is the stuff that I'd have to have this stuff to keep my business going. Rent, utilities, basic staff wages, ingredients, things like that. That's essentials. And then I have growth investments. These are the things I buy that actually grow my brand. Marketing is not an expense. I will tell you this right now. Marketing is an investment. It is a growth investment. A lot of people, when things get tight, the first thing they do is they cut back on two things, which is the death sentence of all restaurants. They cut back on spending money on marketing. Luke will tell you, he's seen it all the time. And they cut back money on training. Two stupidest moves in the world. Training and marketing are growth investments. You always need to be growing and training your team, and you always need to be investing in marketing. Always. Okay. And then you got the nice to haves. These are the things that are not maybe essential, but it could enhance maybe the guest ambiance, maybe help out, maybe some decor upgrades, like maybe you got some carpeting that needs to be replaced, maybe a couple, booths have some tears in them, you got to replace some of that stuff, maybe some kitchenware you need. Don't go skimpy. I remember I walked into a restaurant one time and these guys they had one rubber spatula in a big kitchen. And I'm like, the guy's standing there and I'm like, what are you waiting for? He goes, oh, I'm waiting for, Fred here to get done with the rubber spatula so I can clean it and use them. Like, you got only one rubber spatula in the whole restaurant. Yeah, there's only one. Well, how come we don't have more? The owner won't buy any. Okay. That's not a good way to spend your money, people. Right. After we have that stuff classified, next thing we want to do is we want to start looking at our budget. We want to start allocating. Allocating is the next step. And we want to allocate based on ROI. Each spending category should be evaluated on its potential return on investment. Marketing and training, again, are investments. I want to look at my marketing. Instead of just having, a budget, I want to target my marketing spend to proven channels. Luke will be the first to tell you not all marketing is created equal. It all depends on your market and depends on what your brand is too. Some brands do well on certain channels. Some brands do well on certain things. You got to have the right tool to get the job done. It also means you need someone who understands marketing to help you get the right results with marketing. It's easy to go onto Facebook, Meta, throw a lot of money into an ad, get a lot of likes, and not have one person walk through the door. That's not a good use of your investment. You want to have someone who knows what they're doing, who actually can put the money where it needs to go. And then you want a team that's going to be able to analyze and track the results. That's the biggest thing I've learned about marketing is if I can't measure it and manage it, I can't improve it. And then training is also a huge investment. Invest in your staff's training. It will help reduce turnover. It helps reduce waste. It helps improve guest service, also satisfaction. That translates into repeat business time and time again. Another thing you want to do is you want to utilize what we call a zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting means you start a new budget period with a clean slate. All right. Every time I do a budget, I start from zero. right? And I do what we call a zero-based budgeting. I want to make sure I'm justifying every dollar spent, and I want to adjust to this year than rather just adjusting last year. A lot of people I call lazy budgeting. What do I call lazy budgeting? How'd you come up with your budget this year? Well, I took last year's budget and I added 10%. That's lazy. That's like lazy scheduling. How'd you do a schedule this week? I just copied last week's schedule this week. Are your sales going to be the same? No. What's going to happen to your labor? I don't know. I can tell you it's going to be high because you didn't adjust for volume. You didn't do a projections, and you just blindly, lazily took the schedule from last week and copied it this week without even looking at the numbers. Stupid mistake. And then regularly review. What worked last quarter might not work for this quarter. What worked last week might not work this week. You got to constantly be looking at your budgets. I like to have my finger on the pulse. I'm always looking at my budgets. When I'm doing like projections for the week ahead, I look at my budget first, and then I look at my projections, and I see, do I need to adjust my budget? And sometimes I might adjust the budget midweek. If my budget's pretty tight for like my food and stuff like that, but then I see like we've got like a lot more traffic than I thought, a lot more guests coming in the door, I will adjust the budget and put a little bit more to the bottom line that people can spend. All right. And also the opposite. My budget's a little nice, but then all of a sudden we have a really bad week, or maybe some bad weather comes in. We got some rain, some hurricanes, whatever. And then all of a sudden my sales that was projected is not going to get close to it. I have to tighten up that budget. Look at your budget regularly. And then always plan for a contingency. They always talk about plan for a rainy day. Yeah, you want to definitely plan for a rainy day. You should set a small portion of your budget aside for unknown expenses. Like a lot of restaurants have on their budget repair, maintenance, R&M. And a lot of times, I mean, again, this is kind of like they'll put like $500 a month aside for repairs and maintenance. But what happens is they don't use that repair and maintenance that month, and then they spend the money. If you put it aside for repair and maintenance, keep it into an account for repair and maintenance. So that way, when you do get that walk-in cooler that goes down, you're not struggling and going, oh my God, it's going to be $5,000. Well, you should be putting away $500 a month based on your budget, whatever your budget is, to save for this rainy day stuff. Okay. A lot of people think that, wow, hey, you know, I didn't spend it, so now I can use it for something else. And that's not what a budget's about. A budget is designed to give you discipline. Hashtag write that down. A budget is to help you with discipline. Most important thing you can remember. Okay. You got to prioritize your spending based on your goals, potential ROI. And remember, you want to turn your budget into a tool for growth. Every dollar you spend should work as hard as you do. You got to be ruthless in cutting waste and strategic in investing your dollars in your business's growth. It's not about spending less. Hashtag write this down. It's not about spending less. It's about spending right. All right. You need to make sure you're spending time with your budget. You want to become lifelong buddies with your budget. Right? There's a couple of tools in the world that you need all the time. You need a budget and a P&L. Like you need theoretical and actual food costs. You need a marketing calendar and a marketing plan, right? You need a budget and you need a P&L. Part number 3 is we're going to cut the fat, not the muscle. When economic times are tough, does that kind of ring a bell? Anybody, you're like, what's going on right now? Or maybe your financials aren't where you want them to be. It's crucial to cut costs intelligently, not blindly. The number one thing I'll ask like a young manager, what do you do when your labor's too high? Cut. What do you do? A young chef. What do you do when your food cost is too high? Cut. No, don't always cut. It's about trimming the fat. Unnecessary expenses that don't contribute to your restaurant's growth or to guest satisfaction. That's the first thing I put on the chopping block. I don't want to cut into the muscle. This is where it's essential. These are the items that are essential that gives my restaurant its strength and competitive edge. I've seen this with young chefs way too many times. Food costs is out of alignment. They stop ordering stuff or they go really, really skimpy. And the next thing you know, they're 86ing a lot of stuff on the menu all the time. Guests are complaining. And then what happens? It's a ripple effect. Guest complaints today, guests pissed off because they can't order the stuff they want, or it's taking too long because there's not enough product, because you're prepping on the fly because you don't have extra stuff and you're waiting for the order to come in the last minute. It's not productive. It's just going to kick your ass as far as your reputation. And you do not want to have a bad reputation in a unstable market like today. Do everything you can to protect your reputation. Right? Do not blindly cut. We want to cut the fat, not the muscle. So how do we do that? We identify what we call non-essential expenses. You want to audit your current expenses, see where the spending doesn't really directly contribute to the guest satisfaction or bottom line growth. There's what we call top line, bottom line, P&L management. Top line is sales and growth. Bottom line is protection. 8% of your time should be focused on top line. 20% on bottom line. Now your team should be a total opposite. 8% of their time should be focused on bottom line, protecting the brand, watching the waste, and 20% on top line. Some are things that are not essential. I dug into someone's P&L about 6 months ago. This guy had all of these crazy dues and subscriptions that he never was using that he was paying for. How many people have like 5 or 6 streaming services for like Netflix and Disney and HBO Max and Showtime? How many people have 5 or 6 things that you never watch? Says, I got all of them. Yeah. My girlfriend's on my butt all the time about this. Why do you have it? I might need it. Do you use it? No. It's the same thing with your restaurant. You got tons of these little services and subscriptions that you pay for that you don't need. All right. And then watch those third-party fees. Examine third-party fees like a hawk, especially those delivery services. They can take a really big chunk, a good chunk out of your place. If you're using third-party, now sometimes third-party is a necessary evil that we have to use third-party depending on our market. If you have to use third-party, here's 2 things I want you to do. Number 1, adjust your delivery prices to basically so you don't lose money. And you might be saying, well, Donald, if I raise my prices, no one will deliver. If you're losing money on delivery, do you really want to deliver? No. Stop doing stupid shit that loses you money. Stop using third-party delivery fees if they don't make you money. Adjust your prices to make money. And number 2, always convert third-party to first-party. How do you do that? You should always have like a QR code that goes in every bag that goes out to a third party. So when Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, when someone orders from them, you should have a card in their bag that says, hey, would you like to join our loyalty program and order directly from us? Always try to convert third party to first party. That, and also adjust your prices. Your delivery stuff should be at a price that's higher than the delivery service fee. Do not lose money on third party. If you lose money, it's not a good investment. Bail on it. Next thing up, negotiate with your vendors. Your vendors are partners. A lot of times we look at vendors as like the enemy. It's us against them. They're trying to screw me over. They're not trying to screw you over. Right? They're trying to make $1 like you are. Leverage your buying power. If you have multiple locations, you have buying power. Did you know that? Right? A food service distributor will give a better deal to someone who has multiple locations. You want to ask for what we call as a PVA, prime vendor agreement. You want to get a good deal and you want to get it locked in for all your locations. Okay. Leverage buying power. Some restaurant groups form what they call coalitions. So like I've had people say, well, Donald, I'm in a small town in Colorado. Like Luke lives in Colorado. Man, there's some small towns there. A small town might be saying, like, I have some people like, well, but Donald, I'm just a small little restaurant in little bitty, Podunk, Colorado. I don't have any buying power. How many restaurants in your market? Well, there's like 12 restaurants in our market. Hey, maybe you guys could get together and form a co-op and then come to these big vendors and say, hey, listen, we're buying as a collective. We'd like to come to you with a package deal. We'll all buy from you if you can all lock us in at the same deal. That's called collective buying power. Do not think you have to do this all by yourself. And if you're in a small market, work with other restaurants. You guys are on the same boat. You're trying to fight. Okay? Fight the good fight together. I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, it's not what you buy it for that matters. It's what you do with it when you buy it. At 40 Thieves of Food Cost, only one of the 40 Thieves is about the price. The 39 other ones is about what you do with it when it hits your back door. That's the real fight. So many of you want to fight the food cost fight by just beating up your vendor. It's not the fight you want to fight. Right? Portion, waste, prep. That's where the fight's at. Okay. And then consolidate suppliers, reduce the number of vendors by choosing who can supply multiple products. Try to go to a prime vendor agreement, or I'm buying a majority of my stuff from one vendor. Now, most prime vendor agreements, usually like an 80-20 mix. Like I have to buy 80% from you and I'm allowed to buy 20% from other people. Some might do a 90-10. You can just always push back. I'll do 80-20. Anybody says, I want 100% of your stuff, don't do business with them, right? They're being too greedy. Right? That's not a good business deal for anybody. Okay. Next up, this goes to the labor part. Optimize your staff. Analyze traffic patterns. There's a huge tool out there. It's called RevPash. It's one of the KPIs I recommend you look at all the time. It's revenue per available seat per hour. RevPash tells me what is the traffic flow and how do I need a staff. Most people just blindly staff their restaurant based on what people want. I can only work this days. And then we tend to do again, lazy scheduling. Everyone comes in at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. I don't need everyone at the same time. I can start staggering a little bit. But look at where the peak times are and staff accordingly. I see this so many times in full service restaurants. They don't really get busy until 6 o'clock, but their whole service team comes in at 4 to do side work. It is not that much side work. Okay. Save yourself some money. All right. And cross-train your team. Everyone should be cross-trained. Flexibility with the team helps reduce those additional hires. Try to cross-train as much as possible. And here's the thing, don't just cross-train in the department. So many times when I say cross-training, a lot of people think cross-training is like the garde person can do the fryer, or the fry guy is trained on saute. Yes, that is cross-training, but what should they also be cross-trained on? Other departments too. Can that line cook, when it's really slow, that prep cook, can they take an online order? Can they go out and help bus tables? Can they run food? You need to cross-train your team across the board, not just laterally, but a lot of times when we think about cross-training, we're just kind of thinking like left and right. I want you to start thinking forward and backwards too. Okay. Put some depth into your cross-training. Instead of thinking one-dimensionally, I want you to start thinking three-dimensionally. Now, we talked about this in the food cost, in the 40 Thieves of Food Cost, but waste is huge. Everyone should be doing regular inventory checks weekly. If you're bleeding out money, you should be doing weekly inventory. Anytime I have a client who's bleeding money, I put them automatically in a weekly inventory program. You got to do inventory weekly. I don't want to. Well, I know you don't want to, but do you enjoy losing money? Because I don't know. What's the worst evil? What has least pain? Losing money, losing sleep, or doing inventory? Which one? Which do you think is the least pain point? I don't know about you, but I'd rather do inventory than lose money. I don't know about you. And then portion control is another thing. Inspect what you expect. If it's supposed to be 6 ounces every once in a while, go spot check the team. Make sure they're following the recipes. Make sure they're following the build sheets. Make sure they're following the specs. Monitor your utility usage. A lot of times you can switch to energy efficient equipment, energy efficient light bulbs, have smart thermostats, have locks on your thermostats so people can't go in and change shit. Oh my God, that's like the #1 thing that kills your restaurant. Everyone goes in and starts changing the thermostat settings or changing the light settings. Do not let these people do that stuff. Set this stuff up where it is like gold and you can monitor and measure it. Remember, cutting cost means identifying and eliminating wasteful expenses while also safeguarding elements that make your restaurant thrive. Focus on strategic cost reduction. Okay. You want to make sure you're preparing your restaurant not just to survive, but you want to flourish even during challenging times. The economy is always up and down. Right now, we tend to be on a down cycle right now. It's just natural. It always goes in peaks and valleys. It's called business cycles. You want to be able to understand this and you have to adjust. Do not wait until the rug gets pulled out for you to make moves now. You got to have a strategic plan in place. That means starting to trim the fat and flex the muscles in your business, right? Number 4 is one of my favorite things that most of you don't do, forecasting and adjust in real time. How many people do a weekly forecast for the next week? Type in the chat, yes or no. No judgment, just yes or no. Do you do a weekly forecast? Yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. No, 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 no. You want to start doing a weekly forecast, okay? Now, I like to do my forecast like the week before. So let's say my work week ends on Sunday. On Sunday, I'll start planning out for the next week. I'll start looking at next week. I'll look what's on the covers, what's on the books, catering, all that stuff. And then I'll make a forecast. A forecast also is called a projection. Either word works the same. Forecast or projection, but you want to start doing a weekly one and you want to start looking ahead. Now, why do we want to do that? Because I want to start estimating where I need to spend my money. Right? If I'm looking next week and like, oh, there's that big party, there's that big parade downtown, we're going to be slammed. Or, oh my God, like I have a lot of clients like in San Francisco. Hey, the Warriors are playing, the Golden State Warriors are playing. It's going to be busy. All right, I need to adjust for that. If you're not looking at those things, making forecasts and projections, you're going to get caught with your pants down, and that's no place to run a restaurant. It's no way to run a restaurant. You got to be able to adapt. The greatest strength you have as an independent restaurant is your ability to adapt quickly. The chains have a whole system of red tape and protocols they have to go through. McDonald's can't roll out a change like tomorrow. It has to go to corporate. Corporate has to have meetings, and they have to have another meeting about that meeting and have a meeting on that meeting to talk about the meeting. And then they have to get back on the meeting, send some notes about the meeting. And then everyone has to be copied on the meeting. And then they have to have another meeting about these meetings to have a decision about the meeting. And then once they have the decision on the meeting, then they have to implement the decision. And then it has to go down to corporate again. How are we going to roll this out? And then finally, about 6 months later, they finally get action at the level that it should be, where you, as an independent restaurant owner, can say, tomorrow, I'm going to do this. And then bam, you do it and you're rolling. Do not be afraid to adapt quickly. I tell a lot of people, launch and learn. Do it, learn, adjust. Hashtag write that down. Do it, learn, adjust. That is the basic model for an independent restaurant. Do it, learn, and adjust. How many people heard, like, so finish this statement. Ready, aim, what's the last word? Ready, aim, what? Fire, right? If you want to be a really successful restaurateur, you want to do this. Ready, fire, aim. That's how you want to change it. You want to be a successful restaurateur, change that around. It's not, ready, aim, fire. No. Ready, fire, aim. That's how you adjust. Okay, this is the plan. I'm going to fire, and then I'm going to adjust. I'm going to aim. I'm going to readjust my target. That is how you win the restaurant game. Change your dynamics of how you think. Right? Please do this. Please do this. Do this. So how do we do this? How do we project? How do we do forecasting? Pretty easy. Number 1, I leverage historical data. I look for patterns. I like to call these threads. I'm looking for threads based on what's happening. And you should be tracking like weather, local events, holidays. You should have some kind of manager's log of what's happening. Like today, it's Wednesday. It's June, and it's the 19th. It was rainy out today. We had a highway closure. Whatever it is, but you should start tracking this stuff and seeing what are the anomalies, what are the common threads of what's happening. And then you adjust your staffing and inventory based on these trends to optimize cost. And then I also kind of evaluate my past budgets. Now, I look at the past budgets. I don't use them as a starting point, but I look at them just as a reference. Historical data is critical. There's a great quote out there. Those who do not learn from the past are what? Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. If you don't learn from the past, you are doomed to repeat it. And I will tell you this, restaurant owners, and don't take this personal, I'm a recovering restaurant owner myself. We have the worst short-term memory. We don't remember like 3 months ago we got our ass kicked, and then we just think, oh, it's gonna be fine. But no, like you guys are like the number one thing about short-term memory. If you don't learn from the past, you will repeat it over and over again. We call this the hedonic treadmill, or I call it the giant hamster wheel. You want to get off this giant hamster wheel you keep running on. Next thing you want to do is you want to implement what's called a rolling forecast. This is what I call an adaptable forecast, or I also call it a fluid forecast. A fluid forecast means instead of just a static budget, it's fluid. I have to make adjustments. I love it when I ask people about business plans, especially restaurants that have been open for a while. Hey, did you write a business plan? Yeah. Where is it? Oh, it's in my office. When was the last time you pulled out that business plan and took a look at it? I haven't looked at that business plan since we opened. You know, your business plan is like a blueprint or a guide. Every once in a while, you should probably look at it and see where did we go wrong? What do I need to get back on track? Same thing with your budgets and your forecast. It's not set in stone. Well, hey, Luke, this week you only spend $20,000. And then Luke's like, we're super busy and like, I need more money. Well, sorry, Luke, budget's set in stone. It's like, I brought the tablets down from the mountain and that's how it is. No, it has to be fluid. Dynamic adjustments at the end of each period, extend the forecast by adding a new period. Look for continuous refinement. Responsive, not reactive. When you have a budget, you can be responsive, not reactive. Because now I can look at market conditions, changes. Maybe something really popped up in ingredients. Everybody ever been around with like chicken goes through the roof, or avocados go through the roof, or limes go through the roof? What do? You have to make adjustments. If I see it happening, I see the trends, it's easier to make adjustments. It's easier to be responsive, proactive instead of reactive. And then another thing I love to do is I like to use what I call scenario planning. In the special operations world, when I was in pararescue, we did a lot of this stuff. We call them scenarios, all right? Scenarios or contingency plans. Contingency plans are the best thing in the world you can do. You should look at different outcomes by creating different scenarios. So like I'm looking at the budget next week. And let's say I'm going to do what I call best case, worst case. Okay. Everything goes according to plan, even better. That's best case scenario. And then I'm also going to look at that budget next week and say, what's the worst that's going to happen? What's my plan for that? If you have a plan for the best case and worst case scenario, you'll be able to adjust and adapt easier. Okay. You got to have this best case, worst case. If not, you're going to go in blindly. And then when shit doesn't go the way you want to, you're going to be like, oh, you're going to be panicking and reactionary. And I don't want you to be reactionary. I want you to be responsive, not reaction. Right? Again, we call it stress testing. Stress testing. You ever see like Gordon Ramsay do Kitchen Nightmares? Yeah, he always does a stress test. He'll have like, he'll come in, he'll blow the kitchen up and blow the team up, talk about, just trash the place, how bad it is. And he says, I'm coming back tonight. I'm going to flood the place with clients and see how you guys do. What do you think always happens? Those TV shows are so predictable. I take your existing menu and I'm going to cram the place with people from my social media to come in and get a free meal. What do you think is going to happen? I'm going to crash your kitchen just to show you how bad you are. Stupid. That's called a stress test. You want to have a stress test on paper. What happens? Worst case scenario, what's going to happen? What kind of team do I need? Right? And use this scenario planning to make decisions. Okay? This is like the best thing to do. Make decisions before you need to make a decision. That's a game changer right there. Write that shit down. Make decisions before you must make a decision. This means scenario planning. Right? You got to do some scenario planning. Again, and we talked about this earlier, embrace that technology. Right? There is great stuff out there. Everyone knows what AI is. AI is huge. AI is great. Here's another thing that's amazing about AI. A lot of AI nowadays works with restaurant POS systems. Take a look at, there's one out there. This is probably a really killer one. It's called 5 Out. 5 Out will actually integrate with your POS system. It will look at some of your historical data it will actually give you what we call predictive analysis. Predictive analysis, it will kind of tell you what it thinks they're going to do as far as business, looking at weather, traffic patterns, and all that stuff. It is crazy, and it's only going to get better, right? Predictive analytics is the future. It is crazy, and it's pretty accurate about how close it forecasts sales. And also, and the beautiful thing about this, it will forecast sales. It'll tell you how much inventory you should have. It should tell you how much labor you should have. You want to sit there and say, oh, Donald, I just can't sit at a computer and put those numbers in my head. You don't have to anymore. It's easy to do using predictive analytics. 5out is probably at the forefront of doing this stuff. There's some other great ones out there, but 5out is an amazing company. All right, take a look at them. All these companies, if I ever recommend any software and stuff, always get a demo. Don't ever sign up for anything blindly. Get a demo, see if it's going to work for you or not. Okay. I always that's why I love software companies. They always give me free demos. I love free demos. All right, let's go through a demo and see what's on. And then, of course, foster a culture of agility. This goes back to that 3P framework. And that 3P framework, the first part of the 3P framework is people. And with people part, it's your mindset, and then it's culture. Right? I need to have a team that's flexible and proactive. Your team will be flexible and proactive if you show them an example, if you show them the example of what a flexible and proactive leader is. If you walk into the restaurant and you're always reactionary, yelling, screaming, throwing stuff, what do you think your team's going to be? Reactionary. Hashtag write this down. Culture flows down, not up. It starts with you, right? Regular training. The biggest thing you can do to calm everybody down is just regularly train people. And then empowerment. Allow people to make adjustments. Allow people to give them the autonomy to make decisions. And this is really beautiful when you have a budget, because when I have a budget, they can make decisions within the budget if they know what the budgets are. You get in trouble when they don't have a budget and then they're making decisions, and then you get mad at them, like that one guy got mad at the girl for being proactive and ordering equipment, online stuff, but didn't know what the budget was, and now he's mad, but he should have been mad at himself for not telling her what the budget was. Could have saved a lot of people a lot of heartache and headache, and also maybe not have upset her where she quit. In the world of restaurant management, the ability to forecast and adjust your budget in real time is critical. It is the game changer. Remember, you got to stay flexible. Use data intelligently. Prepare for various scenarios, best case, worst case. So that way you can actually really navigate these financial storms. Okay. You got to be able to adapt quickly. The biggest thing I can tell you is adapt quickly. Part 5, review regularly. Okay. You got to look at that budget more than once a month, once a quarter. You got to look at it regularly. I like to do it on a weekly basis. You have to make sure you're looking at this thing. It's like having your finger on your pulse. If your heart rate is racing, you want to check your pulse. If your restaurant is bleeding, you got to check your financials. Right? Is there anyone here, like if your heart rate was racing terribly out of control, you have pain, you had chest pains, you had your left arm was numb, would you just kind of ignore it? Or would you go see a doctor? I know some of you probably would just ignore it and just keep working. Well, it's the same thing with financial fitness. If you're bleeding out cash, you just can't ignore it anymore. You got to put your finger on the pulse. To do that, you got to look at these things regularly. How do we do that? We schedule regular budget meetings. Again, assess performance against budget. Your P&L and your budget's like theoretical versus actual. I need to know, where is the variance? Okay. Variance is probably the most important word you want to understand, because you have your budget. That's what I want to spend. And then I have my P&L, which is what I really spent. I always want to look at what my budget was, what my actual was. And then I want to say, what's the variance? What's the gap? And then I have to create an action plan to close that gap down. If you do this on a weekly basis, you will stop bleeding out money and you will start making a lot of money. Trust me. When you regularly review your financials on a weekly basis, you will start turning the corner from being just a mess where you're losing out money to you're actually putting money in the bank. Okay. Use a collaborative approach. Get your team together. Ask them. Get meetings. Ask for brainstorming. A lot of times your team has really good ideas. Take the idea. Doesn't mean you have to do them, but take the ideas in. A lot of times, some really good ideas I get from my team. Refine your forecast. Remember, your forecast needs to be flexible or fluid. Right? That's probably the biggest word I want you to remember from this whole thing is a fluid forecast, not a static forecast, a fluid, flexible forecast. And then I have to be able to incorporate that data real time. I got to be able to take the stuff from my accounting, stuff from my POS system. I have to plug them in and see where does these pinpoints, where these data points making sense, where they're not making sense. I also have to be able to plan for that future. When I'm using my budgets and my P&L, it allows me to make better decisions. All right, what's going to be some challenges coming up? What are going to be some opportunities coming up? Every time there's a recession, there's huge opportunity for restaurants that have cash. Okay, huge opportunity. Every time there's a depression, every time there's a recession, there's a huge opportunity for restaurants. Document the changes, see what's going on, or write it down. Analyze the impact, right? I changed this and this. What was the impact on it? Everything has what's known as cause and effect. For every action, it's a basic law of physics. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. Remember that with your numbers too. All right. It's probably the biggest thing you can understand about budgets and finances is that cause and effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when I cut staff, there's a cause and effect for that. Could be lack of service, could be more complaints, could be longer ticket times, could be longer guests. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens. You got to be aware where you have to be able to weigh out all the variables and make smart decisions all the time. Right. Regularly, you have to regularly and religiously review your restaurant's budget. Okay. This is going to allow you to stay responsible and respond dynamically to whatever's going on in the economy. I will tell you, restaurants that are proactive with their budgets and P&Ls, they're not as stressed as restaurants that are reactionary. How many people have gotten a P&L at the end of the month, you know, from the last month? Like it's like you just finally got your P&L for May. Like your accountant's like so slow. It's like 2 weeks into June and you got your P&L for May and you look at it and you're like, oh shit. Right. Oh. And then what do? You have to overcorrect. We have to overcompensate. It's better if you make small incremental changes week to week instead of trying to make a huge shift after a month of bad stuff happening. It's better to make small incremental changes. The biggest thing I want you to remember is that when it comes to effective budgeting, the most strategic move you can make is to have your team involved on this. All right. Everyone from the line cooks, front of the house staff, they all impact your financial outcome. I want them to be involved. If you want to be successful, you have to tap into the invaluable resource and foster a culture of financial responsibility. I like to say financial responsibility and accountability. Right? Together we succeed, together we fall. You got to get that thing going together. And for those of you that stuck around to the end of this thing, for the 31 of you, I have a great free gift for you today. I'm going to give you a PDF copy of my Restaurant Coach Playbook today. I'll send it over to Luke. It'll be a PDF. He'll give it to the download. It's going to be a great one. It's 365 daily little tips. So I have a lot, you know, you probably heard me live. I call them restaurant coachisms. Culture flows down, doesn't flow up. All right. All business problems are people problems. This book is filled with 365. There's one for every day. So what you do is you pop the book open, you read one a day, and you think about it. And then you see, how can I use this in my restaurant, or how can I use this to make my restaurant better? So 365 little inside tips. You're gonna take one every day, and then you're gonna basically just take that one tool, that one little gold nugget, and say, how can I get this thing to work with my team? How can I get this to make myself and make my restaurant better? Hashtag write this down. Restaurants become better when the people in them become better people. So let me ask you a question before we take off today. If I dropped you off to the middle of the woods, Luke knows this question already. If I dropped you off in the middle of the woods, I took a helicopter and I just dropped Luke off in the middle of this wilderness with a cantina and said, make it back to civilization. It's about 5 o'clock in the night. He's going to run out of sunlight pretty soon. The chances of Luke making it back are probably pretty slim. I would probably say the chance of Luke getting back without being eaten by a bear, I'm going to go with the bear. The bear is going to eat Luke before he gets back. I'm just saying. But if I gave Luke a map and a compass and I showed him how to use the map and compass, he could probably get back pretty quickly. That's what coaching is. Coaching is we give you the map and the coach is the compass to keep you on track. The last 14 years, I have helped over 2,800, almost 2,900 restaurants now, just like yours. Here's the two biggest things that coaching will give you. Coaching will give you accountability and also gives you new tools. If the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to look at every problem like a nail. The job of a coach is to give you more tools. And to give you more tools, I need you to have more resources. And that's why coaching is so powerful, because it gives you new tools to look at situations. And when you have new tools, you find that you get new outcomes. When you get new outcomes, you get better results. So the Restaurant Accelerator is my #1 coaching program in the world. It is hands down the fastest way to get from working in your restaurant to working on your restaurant, and actually put a lot of money in the bank at the same time. The average person in our accelerator program right now makes 19.8% profit. You not only get the accelerator modules, you also get a bunch of other modules and training that go with it. You get access to a bunch of seminars, workshops I've done, 3 frames to thrive. Team 1-1 team is all about behavioral strengths. Know Why workshops about core values. Talent attraction methods is going to show you how to set up a complete hiring system. Food cost boot camp is going to help you get that theoretical food cost out of your head, get it on paper. We can actually make that stuff happen. Extreme Menu Makeover is going to take your menu apart, put it back together, add another 3% with that menu engineering. Extreme Restaurant Marketing Machine is going to show you how to win that organic game. So that way, when Luke's team takes over the paid game, you're going to get a lot more return on your investment. Restaurant Tracks, every download I've collected over the years, 380 different downloads. Strat Maps is going to give you some strategic plans. Profit Clinic is going to help you understand that budget P&L gap. Also understand your prime cost a little bit better. Also how to understand purchasing power with your vendors. It is just a powerhouse of a workshop, that Profit Clinic. And of course, you're going to get a one-on-one call every other week with one of my certified restaurant coaches. These people I have hand-selected myself that are former or current restaurant owners that are going to be able to coach you. It's over 200 hours of downloads, over 380 materials. And here's the deal. If you sign up today, Luke doesn't even know about this, I'm going to give you a bonus. I have a 5-day profit challenge workshop. It's 10 hours of training plus downloads. It is the fastest way. If your restaurant's bleeding out, this is what I put you on right away. I always like, if you had an infection and I gave you antibiotics, if your restaurant's bleeding out, I put you on the 5-day profit challenge first thing. 5-day profit challenge. We talk about building, about understanding your numbers, menu analysis. We talk about boosting revenue with inventory. We also talk about labor management, talk about marketing, the guest experience. I'm not going to sell you hard on it. It's a great bonus. I'll add it today. If you sign up with anybody from the team, all you got to do is just talk to your restaurant support team, your restaurant growth team support about that. Luke, I'm sure we'll talk about this at the end also. Well, I thought we had one question. Kevin had one. If the budget is tight, how do you justify hiring another manager for your team? If I, as the owner, am working 50 hours a week managing both that and the floor. So, number one, you want to start thinking, if I can't really afford a budget or I can't really afford a manager right now, I want to do a sidestep. How can I move someone into a leadership role, maybe as a shift leader, where I pay them a little bit more hourly while I'm getting some relief from me doing it all? Because I've had this question a lot with a lot of restaurants. So restaurants, like smaller restaurants especially, the budget's tight, they're not making money, but they need leadership. Sometimes I might hire someone or just maybe promote someone on my team that I feel has the behavioral strengths for it. Now, here's the thing. Don't just blindly battlefield promote somebody. Make sure they have the right traits for it. And you want to make sure you work with one of your coaches to make sure that you get the right person in the right spot. We use a behavioral assessment called the Pro Scan because there's certain behavioral traits that tell me if someone's good for a leadership role or not. So many times we just blindly promote someone into a leadership role, and then it's worse for us. Do not do that, Kevin. We gotta make sure that we have a plan in place. So there's lots of different variables for this, and we can actually figure this out. But it's not. This is a common scenario I've seen a lot of times. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody got one? All right, Luke.
All right,
I want to say
Donald.
thanks for being here today. I appreciate everyone being here. If I can help you out, you can always email me, donald@therestaurantcoach.com. Also in the restaurant growth the members area, I'm in there too. So you can always send me a direct message. I'm more than happy to help you out. A lot of times we get questions from members. And again, we're not hard selling you here. If you're happy where your restaurant's at, you love the webinar series, stay with the webinar stuff. It's really cool, man. Coaching's not for everyone. I will tell you up front, coaching's not for everybody. Cool.
Yes, nailed it, Donald. Thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate you being here. Guys, as Donald said, there's a whole webinar community that you have not accessed it yet. Tons of awesome, really valuable stuff in there. We've created this webinar community where it's like a mastermind group, right? So if you have any question, no matter what the question is at all, you can go in the webinar wall. It's kind of like a Facebook group, but not on Facebook. So you can go on the webinar wall and just type in any question you have. We've had some situations where somebody at the restaurant, some staff member starts dating another staff member, and then owners have questions like, how do you handle this? So there's a few hundred restaurant owners in the group, and if you have any sort of questions like that, there's people there that can help share their experiences with you. Donald and I can chime in. We've got a bunch of resources there for you. So this webinar, all the prior recorded webinars, all the trainings are going to be in the portal as well. So most of you, I'm assuming, have access to the portal at least, but if you're new here, make sure you do that because there's tons and tons of stuff in there for you. So that's all we got. That's all we got, guys. Thanks for being here today. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll talk to you the same day and time next week. All right, guys. Bye.